All right, it's Monday night. That means it is time for a new episode of Blackhawks Banter, presented by the Hockey Writers Live. Welcome, everybody. There is no line blender going on here, where our top line remains the same for 6 straight weeks. My name is Greg Boysen. I am your discussion host / ringleader tonight. I'm joined tonight by Gail Kauchak, our longest tenured Blackhawks writer at the Hockey Writers. How are you?
Hi.
And also we have Brooke LoFurno with us again. Hello, Brooke.
Hi.
And our Hawks fan north of the border, Shaun Filippelli. See, ever since Gail said it wrong the first time, it's in my head. So
Yep,
I gotta
we always
stumble
make
over. It's an easy
second
name. I
guess
just it's in my head. Anywho, we if you guys are watching via Facebook Live on our Facebook page, make sure you're clicking that like button. And if you're over on the YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button while you're watching us. And of course, follow the Hockey Writers on Twitter, as well as all 4 of us. We all have our personal accounts very active on Twitter. Therefore, you won't miss anything. You'll be notified when any one of our great Hockey Writers live shows hits the airwaves, and be kept up to date on all Blackhawks and NHL news. That's kind of what we do. Speaking of the Blackhawks and the NHL, we're just going to jump right into our discussion tonight. It seems that the financial hurdles have been cleared for the 2021 season to finally get underway. Certainly looks like January 13th is going to be the targeted start date, and the teams are going to play a 56-game schedule. There'll be a 1 season only realignment of 4 divisions with an all-Canadian division as well. The Blackhawks will reportedly be in what they're calling the Central Division, along with the Carolina Hurricanes, Columbus Blue Jackets, Detroit Red Wings, Florida Panthers, Minnesota Wild, Nashville Predators, and Tampa Bay Lightning. But that is not set in stone. That's changed 3 or 4 times already. So until we get the final word, we're just going to roll with that. However, there hasn't been much discussion on what the playoffs are going to look like. I know that's a little further along on the way. According to Per LeBrun of The Athletic and TSN, he says it will likely be a straight divisional playoff format for this season only, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 in each division, because of the travel restrictions between the US and Canada. They obviously want to avoid that issue as long as possible. So the Hawks are only going to play those teams in the division throughout the season. And then, if there's a playoffs, it's going to be within those teams until they get to the final 4. However, in a perfect world, since we're getting kind of a weird, wacky season, what kind of playoff format would you like to see? Are you okay with this idea? Or would you like them to be a little more creative if, obviously, they can be? So we'll start with Gail. What do you think about a possible playoff format this spring?
Okay, well, before we get into that, now that this is actually happening, it appears that this is actually happening. It's kind of got me started thinking about the details a little bit. So they want to have 56 games. There's 7 teams besides the Blackhawks. So obviously that would mean that we would match up 8 times against each team, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that they haven't really figured this out yet. This is still what everybody's trying to do here, but it appears that they're going to kind of meet multiple times together. So it would almost be like a mini series. Like they might play 2, 3, 4 games at once against the same team before moving on. So I personally think that this might be kind of a good thing for the Blackhawks and for this young coaching staff, because let's face it, then you're not going back and forth. You don't have as much to focus on. You can kind of just focus on this one team for a good stint of games. And I like this idea, and I'm a little bit excited about that with the Blackhawks. When it comes down to the playoffs, I really actually do like this simple plan. I don't like the way that they've gotten so complicated with these things in the past. The simpler, the better. And I think that this is what you have to do in order to make this happen, for us to play hockey and for us to be protected. Keep it this way. I like the 1 through 4. Who's going to make it in this division, right? So if you think about it, and if you look back towards last year, obviously I really think the Lightning they won the cup. They're kind of a shoo-in. Last year, Carolina and the Columbus Blue Jackets both had 81 points in, I think it was 70 games. Nashville and the Panthers had 78 and the Blackhawks had 70. No, I'm sorry. Minnesota had 77. Blackhawks had 72. So you've got this big group right here that's really only 9 apart, right? The Blackhawks 72 and Carolina's 81 is only 9 points apart. I personally think that, call me the crazy optimist, but I personally think that Blackhawks do have a shot at being at that Final Four. And I think that we need to just get these games started and do it and see if they can make it in.
Right. That is some preseason optimism if I've ever heard it. Shaun, what do you think?
I won't go as deep into that much optimism for the Hawks' sake, but basing it around sort of a playoff structure, I know the question is, what do we see a perfect world looking like? To be honest, I don't know if any of us even know what a perfect world is these days, so hard to kind of wrap my head around that. But as far as sort of the format they're looking at, I kind of took this question and ran with it that way. I will preface by saying I know Bettman is not a fan of ever even remotely thinking about a cup not being presented. I think there's a variety of reasons for that. I don't think it's for the purity of the game. But with that said, and with the uniqueness of this year and everything going on, if they did keep the format that you've already touched on, Greg, why not, keep it cross-border rivalry here? Why not make an American champion and make a Canadian champion? And then when it's for them to cross over and play in each other's nation, then you can have a cup awarded that way between the Canadian champion and the US champion. And I get it. I know that the parity might differ because obviously we don't have as many teams up here in Canada. I get all that. The logistics, would have to be worked out. But just from a simple sense of uniqueness and kind of seeing how animated it can be and how many rivalries we can build up and just creating a new one as far as that cross border goes. I would say again, have it go exactly as you've already said. There ends up being a number one spot for the American seed and a number one for the Canadian. And then when they can play, they play for the cup.
That's an interesting idea. Brooke, what do you think?
Okay, Shaun, I love that idea now that you said that. At first I was like, I don't know. But actually, the more you kept talking, I was like, actually, I love this idea. I will say that our last show, I'm sorry, guys, I was grumpy. The Bears lost and everything in Chicago sports world. And I said that the Hawks have no shot of winning the cup next year. But I saw that they were talking about maybe Minnesota might be in our division. So if that comes true, then I think we have a really good shot. But no, I actually really do like the plan that they might go with. I think it's pretty straightforward, and I think that's kind of what we need. Like Gail said, they can get really complicated and really make this a drawn out thing, but the way that's drawn out with 1 through 4 and everything, I really like that format. I have no problem with that. But as long as I think it's not complicated and it's just a straightforward, get straight to the point, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that plan is obviously the simplest and the easiest as far as, with all the uncertainty and safety issues and travel, who knows where we're even going to be come April or May when these are going to start. So that's the right plan. In a perfect world, and I've been saying this for years in a regular season, but since we're having a goofy season anyway, it's only 56 games. You got these weird divisions. Let's just go completely crazy and just do 1 through 16. Boom, throw them in there, see what happens. Forget the division restraints. Obviously, I don't think that can possibly happen because of everything, and you can't schedule it now, but I would love to see that. Just top 16 teams are in, first top seed plays the 16th seed, and just go for it. You could see some crazy matchups that you would never see in the playoffs unless it's like a Stanley Cup final. You could see Boston and Colorado in the first round, or Tampa Bay and St. Louis play each other in the second round. We're already going to have a weird, dumb season, so let's have some weird, dumb playoffs. That's what I say. But it's not going to happen. They can't do that with all the uncertainty. So the plan they got is probably the best bet, though it might be kind of dull for a while because we're going to see these teams play each other all season, and then we'll see. But hey, repetitive hockey is still better than no hockey. I think we'll all agree on that.
Yeah.
So beggars cannot be choosers in this situation, so we will not. Speaking of tournaments and playoff style hockey, the World Junior Championship is still going on as if nothing weird and dumb is happening, while there are a lot of weird and dumb things going on. Tournament's still going to go on. They're carrying on as business as usual, even though it's been tough to keep those 19 COVIDs out of the player rosters. We've had all kinds of different problems. Canada was on a 14-day quarantine. Sweden's had to change their whole coaching staff because of a COVID outbreak. Germany's, some of their best players aren't coming. The Blackhawks have 3 players who are hoping to play that are out after positive tests. Lucas Reichel, who we talked about last week, he tested positive. He's not making the trip. And then 2 players from the U.S. squad, Drew Comesso and Alex Vlasic, both tested positive. So rough stretch for Blackhawks prospects. But they're still going to go on with it. The teams from Europe made it finally after some difficulties. They're in Edmonton. Apparently, all the teams are in Edmonton. Even though Alberta is in a serious lockdown, they're still going to go ahead with the tournament. All the teams are in their hotels for 4 days of isolation, and we'll see what happens. Basically, do you think this is the right move when all these crazy times and all this, the COVID numbers are going skyrocketing everywhere, especially in Canada and in America, North America, and you got these kids from all over the globe that are going to come here? And is it the right move? Is it safe? Do you think they should just keep doing it? Obviously, they're going to until something bad happens at this point. But do you think they should have maybe pushed this back a few months when it's a little safer? Shaun, we'll start with you since you're in the host country. We'll roll with you.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying that since this pandemic hit, I mean, we're coming on almost a year now, believe it or not. And it's been tough for everyone, no matter what side of this polarizing topic you're on, it's been tough. But I've maintained my stance in support of us all doing our part collectively and individually to keep ourselves safe and keep each other safe. And frankly, I just want to put out there that it's getting increasingly frustrating that we don't all share that same sentiment. So it's nice to know that there are people out there and there are us who do support that. And for those who don't, I just wish that they would shake their heads a little bit and realize that, safety and health for everyone comes first. So that needs to be the focus. So as a segue there, I mean, the World Juniors obviously looked at what the NHL did. We saw the NHL's return to play plan come out. Even I was admittedly skeptical when that came out, and for these same reasons where you thought, well, how is this possible? How is nobody going to get this? And how quickly we're going to see this thing spread? Obviously, the NHL coordinated it effectively. They did it well, and it worked. One of the brightest spots for me personally, given my care and attention to all of this, was seeing the NHL's reports on when they were doing the testing and there being no positive results. Those were refreshing. I loved seeing those updates, and despite hockey being played, which was great, that was my focus. So seeing that worked out was fantastic. So the World Juniors looked at that and thought, hey, we can do it too. The challenge was you get so many other people who end up becoming a mixed bag from all different parts of the world and who are doing, all different kinds of activities, a little bit beyond, I guess, what the NHL experienced. And now we're seeing all these cases. Quite frankly, with all of that said, no, this is not the right hockey. Health and safety comes first, always. Health comes before hockey, always. And this is no different. You have players now who, and on the skeptic side, they're going to say, oh, these are young players, they're going to be fine. And that's crap. The reality is that these players, hopefully they will be fine, and they probably will be, but the challenge is going to be the ripple effect. Who else are they going to impact? Who else is it going to affect? And who else is in danger? People need to get their heads, out of the sand here and realize that this is a bigger deal than a lot of people want to realize. And, seeing these results come in, now's the time to stop. So did they want to try it? They did, and it's not working. So no, now's not the time. Stop the tournament. Let's see everyone get healthy, and that should be the focus, and hockey can wait.
Well said, for sure. Brooke, what do you have to add on this topic?
Ditto. But I honestly think, though, that it's not worth it, in my opinion. I think besides health-wise, everyone, well, actually, health-wise, yes, everyone is being impacted by this. The players that are sick are being impacted by this. And like Shaun said, who knows if they impacted more or affected more players, and we don't know that, which is scary. This could still keep going on. And the fact that this is already it's not like it's one team being affected. This is going on through most of the teams. And the fact that there is an outbreak, they know that there's no easy fix there. It's there. It's not worth it at this point. It's not worth it health-wise. And also it takes away from everyone's experience. It's not like the players that are sick are missing out. and the ones that are being affected by this in general. It's like everyone's missing out right now, and it's not worth it. Make sure everyone comes back and is healthy where they can get the full experience when it's safe and healthy to do so.
Yep. Gail?
I agree with everything that you guys are saying, but I would like to say that the fact that they're there now and that they're in the isolation, let's hope for the best moving forward, because it's obvious that they're going to do this, right? It's obvious that they haven't stopped it yet. And let's just hope that it will turn out like it did when they had the playoffs and they were in the bubble in Edmonton, in that they can have it be safe and healthy from here on out to continue. And that is just my hope and goal now that at least we've gotten this far.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys have said, and you know, it worked for the NHL, but the NHL were adults who are getting paid a lot of money to be there. Now we're dealing with teenagers, so hopefully that same level of maturity and responsibility and thoughtfulness is with them. You'd hope, and hopefully once they get everybody there and everybody isolated, they can be safe and COVID free. My biggest concern, and why I think they should have postponed it until, you know, the early summer, everybody can have their best squad. Everybody can be, you know, hopefully by then, you know, the vaccines are doing their job and fans can go watch and all that fun stuff. But my biggest concern is we still have no idea what the long-term effect is on those who get this virus. You know, yes, these are young guys in great shape. They're those who get test positive are not in any like high risk for mortality. They are not the susceptible age group for that. But we don't know what's going to happen. The name Ridley Craig of the Ottawa Senators draft pick. He was one of the first that tested positive before Canada's camp. He said in an interview last week that he's still, even though he has done his quarantine, it's been over a month since he tested positive, he still can't get in the good shape. He's still feeling the effects. We don't know what can happen to people who get this down the road. So you could be exposing these guys who are in great shape now, but who knows what happens a year, 2 years, 5, 10 years from now. We don't know. Still so many scary uncertainties out there. So you really hope you're not putting anybody's long-term future at risk for, you know, a couple weeks of games. And I love the World Juniors. I mean, it's one of my favorite weeks of the year, that whole week in between Christmas and New Year's, to have really good, fun, competitive hockey on all day long. I look forward to it every year, but to me this year it doesn't seem worth it. Nothing really has, but we'll see. Hopefully, you know, as Shaun said, I was a little skeptical for the NHL when that all started. I said, there's no way this is going to go as planned, and they did a tremendous job. We're dealing with the IIHF. We'll see. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully we get a great tournament and everybody is safe. That's the most important part. All right, so we'll focus back on our team here, the Blackhawks. Last week's episode, if you tuned in, and you should have, it was a good one. If not, you can check it out on the Facebook page and the YouTube channel. It's saved for you. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to both of those locations while you're watching us. We talked about who we would like to have on the first line. So I'm going to put us all back behind the bench where we love to be, either the bench or the general manager's office. That's where we love to go on our field trips. So it's opening night. You're the Blackhawks head coach. You get the first penalty called against your opponent. It's time for the power play. Who are the 5 guys you're tapping on the shoulder and sending out there for your top power play unit? Brooke, we'll start with you on this one. Who is your top power play unit?
Okay, so I'm going to say that I had to almost like refresh my brain on what our power play units actually were. I kind of forgot. But I will say I didn't necessarily disagree with what Colleton was putting out there, but it's about execution. They're just not executing it. But I kind of liked Kane, Taze, Doc, Kubalik, and Keith, but I kind of thought about taking Keith off and putting it with Connor Murphy. So Connor Murphy would be my defenseman, I think, out there on the first power play unit. But also, now that I think about it, I maybe would try Shaw out there on the first one too, only because he's a good net front presence. He's usually good at redirecting shots. So I would maybe try him, but I do like Doc there too. He's a good net front presence. So okay. So my final line, would be Kane, Taves, Doc, Kubalik, and Murphy.
Okay, Gail, I know you're passionate about Blackhawks special teams. What is your top line?
Yes, I love this question. So thank you for asking it. And Brooke, thank you for bringing up Shaw too, because I think I actually kind of forgot about him, and he would be on my second unit, but that's not what we're talking about. So the first unit I would actually have be very similar to yours, Brooke. Taves, Kane, Doc, Kubalik, and I'm going to pick Adam Boquist on the point. And the reason for all this is, okay, so first off, I think that Taves and Doc can kind of be your net front presence, your rovers, right? And then I'm picking Kane and Kubalik to be your shooters out there. And I went back and forth, you could have it be DeBrincat and Kane, but I'm going to go with Kubalik for two reasons. First off, I think that Kane and Kubalik, they haven't been together as long. They're not as predictable. They can be a little bit more creative. And secondly, this frees up DeBrincat to be on the second unit with Dylan Strome, buddy Dylan Strome, right? So that's why I chose Kubalik up top. And then Adam Boquist, I think that it's time to take the reins, let him take the reins, give him that top power play unit, let him be the quarterback of it, and give Keith some minutes off. It's time to do that. And so that's why I would go with Boquist.
All righty. Sean, who's your power play unit?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, we've talked about special teams, obviously, as you said, and things haven't worked, whether it is because of execution or who's in those roles. It just hasn't worked. So, now's the year to be a little different and try some new things. So, some familiar names, but sort of in some different spots. I'm going to have Taves at center to win those draws. I mean, he's still one of the best, so why not keep him there? Obviously, Kane still has his spot on the right, right where he belongs as the superstar of this team. However, where I differ, DeBrincat's going to be on the left, and simply stated, DeBrincat is already poised to take over Kane as this team's superstar, and as I predicted last week, he will take over in point totals, and this will be no different. I mean, whether people realize it or not, DeBrincat actually scored more on the power play than Kane did last year, so why take him off that unit? Let him keep producing. And then I'm going to give Doc some power play time, but I'm going to give him on the back end. I'm going to put him on right D, let him have a chance to sort of throw him to the wolves, so to speak, force him to work on his two-way game, and at the same time, give him some power play opportunity, give him some leadership opportunity, and just see what he can do when he's out there. But to balance that off, I'm going to put Zadorov on his left and really, add some strength and structure there, so that for those young mistakes that we might see from Doc or that inexperience, at least Zadorov can pick up the slack there and really balance out the back end.
Yeah, I had originally thought, and it makes no sense, but I was almost tempted to not put Patrick Kane on the top unit, only because how many times have we seen, especially last year, that the power play is 2 minutes of Patrick Kane looking for something to do while four guys stand there and watch him. So maybe if you take him off, the other guys would actually do something. Okay. But then you don't take your best offensive player possibly in the history of your franchise off the top power play unit. So Patrick Kane's there. Jonathan Taves is still my center because you got to win that opening draw, and he's your best chance at doing that. My biggest pet peeve in all of hockey, besides people who bang on the glass, is losing the opening face-off to a power play. It takes 20 to 30 seconds off the clock right away. You got to win that opening draw and establish possession. That's why Taves is there. Plus, he's not afraid to go to the net. I have Doc on the left side just because of his size. He's a guy that's going to take away the eyes of the goaltender. He's a guy that's going to take up a lot of space and attention from the defense, cause traffic in front. And my power play philosophy has always been traffic in front, shots from the point, see what happens. Speaking of the back end, I'm going to put DeBrincat out there. I think DeBrincat's shot and his passing ability is very underrated. I think a lot of people overlook that. He can set you up just as well as score, and with his deadly shot and the space to operate from the back end as opposed to being down low, I think could pay off dividends. And my other defenseman is Adam Boquist. You drafted him to be the power play quarterback. You didn't invest a top 10 pick in him to not. He's the offensive dynamic defenseman. This is what you brought him here for. Give him the keys to the car. Let him go. Let him struggle. Let him figure it out. Top line, top power play defenseman quarterback Adam Boquist for the full season. Just let him do it. You want to rebuild, this is what you do. So he's the guy in charge, and I think he can do a very good job of it. He showed sustained success in that role down in Rockford, and I think it's all about confidence with him. And you just say, hey, this is your spot. No one's going to take it from you. Let's see what you can do. It's why you drafted him. So that's my power play unit. So we're going to go from one of Gail's favorite topics to another one of her favorites, like the Gail show tonight. We're going to talk about, as you guys know, I'm a big history guy. I do the daily hockey history, Today in Hockey History column on the site. I'm just a big history guy in general, not only just hockey. But if you follow my 90s Hockey Tweets Twitter account, you would have been notified last week, December 9th, I believe it was, 1998. Marian Hossa scored his first NHL goal when he was a member of the Ottawa Senators way back when. So that got me thinking for a fun little history discussion we can have tonight. Hosa was one of the most popular player of those 2010s, those championship teams. So I figured let's take a couple minutes and discuss our favorite memories or our favorite game with good old number 81. He deserves it. Gail, what was your favorite memory of Marian Hossa while he was here in Chicago?
All right. Well, I know that there's a lot of highlight reels, and we could talk about those left and right, and I'm sure that we'll hit on some of those as well. But what I would like to do is actually discuss a little bit more personal Hosa memory that I have. So it was 2017, and we were on spring break. My family was on spring break, and we were visiting my parents down in Florida. And my husband has a friend that has season tickets for the Lightning. So he hooked us up to go to a game to watch the Blackhawks and the Lightning play. And so we get there, and let me tell you, these seats are just phenomenal, right? They're upper part of the first section, maybe 12 rows up, right on the blue line. It's the kind of seats that you could have to pay a whole lot of money at the United Center to have these seats. So, and I'm not really sure where my kids come from because they don't even really like hockey, but even they're like, Mom, this is so cool, right? So we're having this great experience, and we're there, and it's the Lightning and the Blackhawks and the electricity with the lightning bolts and all this. Okay, so they're playing the game, and this is back when Hosa was on the third line for All in the Name of Balance. So he's playing on the third line. The defenseman gets in the puck at center ice, and here he comes, and he's coming right towards us where we are, right towards the goal. And he's on the rush, and time just stopped for me, right? Because it was so cool, and you see it on TV, but when you see it in person and when you're that close, and here he comes, and it's just the power and the precision and it's just Marian Hossa coming up the ice, right? And he gets past his defender, easy, makes a little move, right? Perfect Hossa, and he gives this picture perfect pass to Marcus Kruger. And Marcus Kruger, poor Marcus Kruger, it was a little bit too hot for him to handle, and he flubs it up, and the whole play falls apart. But Hosa was there, and it just goes to show you that if he would have been on the first line and he would have given that pass to Taze, it would have been a sure goal. And it was just one of my favorite memories, especially because it was so bittersweet, because this was late March. And as we all know, he retired after that season, and it's the last time I'll ever get to see him live. But I got to, and it was pretty awesome.
That's awesome. Sean, what do you remember most about 81?
Yeah, so mine's more of a culmination, not necessarily one specific event, but it'll sort of lead to one. Hosa, when he broke into the league, was obviously a star from the time he broke in, and we all saw that. But I never really cared about him one way or the other. I was indifferent. I wasn't a fan. I was not a fan. I just knew that he was good. Typically, when it comes to players who sort of flop from team to team, chasing a cup, I'm not a fan of that at all. I will admit that. I don't like that. I don't respect that. Everyone's got the reasons, but I'm a fan and I'm allowed to feel that way. I don't like when I see players do that. However, for some reason, it felt different when it happened to Hosa. It happened 2 years in a row there with Pittsburgh and Detroit. He lost 2 times in a row, making 2 finals in a row, and then Chicago acquired him, and it just felt different. I didn't really put him in that same category, and then he kind of started to break out right away. He started to have an impact, and that was cool to kind of get on that bandwagon and start to really cheer him on and see him from that perspective. So seeing that impact, seeing what he could do, and then ultimately that leading all the way up to their inevitable run and their magical run of 2010, to seeing Jonathan Toews hand him the cup first and foremost, that was cool. So that was a cool moment, and that was a cool culmination for me as a Blackhawk fan, as a newfound Hosa fan, and just to see that all sort of come full circle for him, and seeing how much passion he bled into the franchise, not just seeming like he was there to sort of etch his name, but that he really wanted to win one, and he wanted to do one with Chicago. So that was really cool.
Brooke, what's your favorite Marian Hossa memory or moment?
Okay, so for the viewers at home, I actually have my Marian Hossa jersey on right now. So I did that for this segment only. So I'm going to say that my favorite moment, I think, this might sound kind of weird, but I have another one, I promise. But when we first signed him as a free agent, that's my favorite moment. I think he was the best free agent signing in Chicago history. Not just Blackhawks history, in Chicago history. I'm going to go that far. Couldn't have gotten better than that. But I also really like that overtime goal he had in 2010 against Nashville, when he came right out of the box. Out of the penalty box, and he ended up scoring. I thought that was a really good moment. And I also really like his 1,000 point game, I think that was against Ottawa. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's too many to count, but those are a few good ones, I think.
Yeah, that 2010 goal definitely sticks in the mind of a lot of people.
Yes.
That's my favorite on ice moment of his. I was a season ticket holder for 10 years, and there were two moments in those 10 years that the United Center nearly got as loud as the old stadium. And one of those moments was that Marian Hossa goal in 2010, which I'm pretty sure I tore some ligaments jumping. I didn't stick the landing on my jump, and I was limping for days.
Worth it.
Still bothers me when it gets too humid, but totally worth it. The other moment where the United Center got that loud was Duncan Keith's opening goal of Game 6 of the 2015 final against Tampa. Those two moments were the loudest I've ever heard that building. Almost as close to what it used to get at the old stadium during the playoff games. But my favorite memory of Marian Hossa actually has to do off the ice. I was lucky enough in 2013 to get press credentials for the Stanley Cup final through the website I was writing for at the time. And my first experience ever, that was my first experience ever at any kind of press outing, was the Stanley Cup final. So talk about getting thrown right into the fire.
Yeah.
But my first day, the day before game one, they had media day at the United Center, and at both teams, the Bruins and the Blackhawks, spent the day coming out. They had these little sit-down podiums set up all through the main concourse on the 100 level, and they would come out staggered. And each player would sit at a podium for 10 or 15 minutes, and you would just go from podium to podium and ask your questions. And I remember Hossa came out, and I went over, and there was a big crowd because it's Marian freaking Hossa. Everybody wants to talk to him. So I just put my recorder down on the podium in front of him and just kind of moved off to the side. And I just remember looking at him from the side, and I noticed his hands. The man had the biggest hands I've ever seen in my life. They were freaking bear claws. They were huge. And I spent 3 minutes staring at this man's hands. Like, I thought he was going to get a restraining order against me after a minute. It was uncomfortable. But I just kept thinking, like, no wonder nobody can ever get the puck away from him or lift his stick or anything, because this guy has got the biggest, strongest looking hands I've ever seen in my life. For whatever reason, that's what sticks with me. Besides the overtime goal, it's that moment, just sitting there going, my God, does anybody else notice these things? They're freaking gigantic. It's the weird things. I have problems, and
You
those
should
are the
have brought
types of
that up
things
to somebody else, man. That would have been
it was my first day in any kind of media scrum, and I didn't want to be like the weird guy, I'm fine being the weird guy now that people know me a little better, but then I didn't want to be. All right, we're gonna do one little more quick thing before we wrap up our episode of Blackhawks Banter this week. Since we're in the midst of the holiday season, we got Christmas coming up. Our Jewish friends are in the midst of celebrating Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to anybody who's celebrating and watching tonight. So in the spirit of the holiday season, let's give ourselves one wish. If we had one holiday wish for the upcoming Blackhawks season, realistic wish, something that can actually happen. We don't want to say undefeated season or Patrick Kane scores 300 goals, something that could actually be achieved. I mean, we can, but let's keep it something that may actually happen. If you had one wish for the upcoming Blackhawks season, what will it be? Sean, we'll start with you on our wish list.
Yeah. So, I mean, as realistic as it comes, I think we've all experienced this with this team. Their fortunes might be down at this time, but in this era of the Blackhawks, something I've respected most about them has been that they're always ready to battle. They always come out to play. They always play with a passion and a fire. I know it's easy to say because they did a lot of winning last decade, but even when the scenario wasn't in their favor, even when the odds were against them, even when they weren't supposed to win, you still saw them fight, battle, contend, play. Cliche, but it's true. They came out ready to battle and they came out ready to play, and it was always fun to watch and exciting to watch. So what I wish for is that once everything settles from some of the disconnect that they're obviously experiencing from these off-season moves that haven't been overly exciting, but when they get into game action here and it's time to go, I just hope that they can come together as a unit in the squad and realize that they're there for one thing and they're there to have fun. I mean, it's a sport, so if they're going to come out and do anything, at least they can put some fun first. Come out with that same passion that they've always had, knowing that the expectations might be a little lower, but hopefully that way we can see some exciting goals, we can see some saves we don't expect, and maybe there'll even be some upsets along the way. So for me, I just wish that they come out with that same energy and that same passion so that fans can at least justify cheering for them as we sort of go through this rebuild and some struggles that are set to come here.
All right, Brooke, what's your holiday wish?
Well, my first wish would be that I wish General Manager Stan Bowman would be fired, but that doesn't seem like that's a really realistic possibility at this point. But
that's not in the Christmas spirit.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. But no, my biggest wish actually, I think, is just for everyone to come back healthy and strong. We know we know the potential this team has when they're healthy and strong. So I want DeBrincat to bounce back. I want Sean Seabrook to come back healthy and strong. I want Kane and Taze to still be Kane and Taze, and I want Kubalik to stay on track. And if everything, I knock on wood. So if they can come back healthy and strong, their potential is sky high.
Okay, Gail, what's your holiday wish?
So my wish, I think my first wish is to, I'd like to see Alex DeBrincat have a bounce back season. He had such a great rookie season and a good sophomore campaign. And then he just really struggled last year. And it wasn't for lack of trying. He did a lot of things right. I think, Greg, you brought up a lot of good statistics about DeBrincat last week. And I really think the hockey gods, and if we look at it more of an analytical viewpoint, if he keeps doing what he's been doing, and God bless him, he did not get discouraged and he kept on plugging away. And I believe that he's going to do the same thing. So I really would like to see him bounce back. And I think that if DeBrincat gets on a roll and he gets hot and some other things go right, then these guys really do have a shot for the playoffs. So that's 2 wishes, but that's where I'm at.
Don't be greedy. That's how you get coal in your stocking. My holiday wish is more of kind of a general, not necessarily anything specific for a player or the team, but my wish is that we can all actually get back to an NHL arena this year and watch a game in person. I think that would be a great sign that things are going well in the world, that these vaccines are doing their job and people are taking this seriously, and we're coming together and we're finding what our new normal is going to be. I think during these last 9-10 months, 3 decades, however long it's been, it seems forever. We took a lot of things for granted. Social gatherings, going to sports, going to concerts, being able to hang out with your friends. And we took a lot of that stuff for granted. And then we've realized, having it taken away from us, how important it really is for us and for our mental health. To be honest with you, it's good to be out and about. So my wish is that, be it there to as a fan or being able to cover a game, is just to be at the United Center with 21,000 other people enjoying a Blackhawks game again. I'm not too hopeful about that, but maybe, come playoff time, May or June, where we've turned a corner and we could start seeing actual fans at hockey games again. That's my wish. So with that's going to wrap up this week's episode of Blackhawks Banter. Once again, thank you everybody for tuning in. We do this every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Chicago time. You can check us out at Facebook Live and on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like our Facebook page and are subscribing to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date, notified when we do hit the airwaves, as well as all of our other great shows. The Hockey Writers Live is pumping out these days. So until we meet again next week, my name is Greg. Thank you, Gail, Brooke, and Sean for joining us again. We'll meet again here next week, and looking forward to another great discussion. Be good, everybody, and we'll catch you next Monday night. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.